You're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Boy, oh boy, do we have a fun week to talk about. Guys, welcome back to RBLR Lightning. As always, my name is Jake Ricker. Alongside me, it's Joe Zamataro. It's Matt Gannon. Guys, welcome back to the show. It was an interesting, to say the least, but first and foremost, how you guys doing?
I'm going to try hard to make sure this isn't a profanity-laden show, but wow, I almost wanted to say just, skip this week. Let's go, talk about them next week, but we got a lot to dive into and quite a bit to discuss. So I mean, let's go, boys. Matt, how you doing?
I had to cancel a vacation last week. I didn't mention anything, but I was darn near. I would have had to have taken this episode off. Man, I really missed the boat on that one. I really should have done that vacation because I'm not ready for this one at all. So, like I always say, this is my therapy. You guys do make me feel a little bit better on the status of the team and whatnot. So let's just dive right into it, I guess. Let's rip the Band-Aid off.
Listen, we're going to talk about the games. We're going to recap everything the Lightning went through this week, but don't worry. It's not going to be all doom and gloom. We got 3 stars of the week, and we got some fun things planned for you later on the show. We're going to talk about the trade deadline. We're going to talk about the injuries. And, of course, we're going to preview the upcoming week. So make sure you stick around for all that and more. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes just like this one. With that said, let's jump right into it. First game that we have to talk about, it's the Lightning taking on the Florida Panthers. Remember, guys, we said this week was going to be the get right week or the revenge week or whatever you want to call it. And the Lightning were looking to bounce back from that, I think it was 7-1 loss they had against the Florida Panthers, the big blowout loss. And unfortunately, things did not go the Lightning's way whatsoever as they fall to the Florida Panthers by a final score of 4-1 in this one. Lightning were good in the faceoff circle, 54% compared to Florida's 46%, but 1 for 5 on the power play. Penalty kill does go 2 for 2, and ultimately Braden Point is the only one that's able to find the back of the net. And a couple of quick goals from Florida, early lead in that first period. Lightning are never able to find their way back into this one, and they suffer a loss. Guys, your thoughts on the Lightning versus Panthers game?
Hey, you want to go ahead and start?
No, not really.
Come on, listen.
Right.
I know it was a tough week, but we got to look at what happened and we got to figure out what went wrong and why things are going to get better, right? Because it's not the end of the world.
No, and this was a kind of a weird game too because there were 3 disallowed goals in it, and that's something I do want to talk about on another play as well. But this was the start of a week where there's just a bunch of mistakes, and the first goal, Bogo basically mishandles a puck to give a. I'm sorry, I guess it was like the second goal, mishandles a puck to give a partial breakaway. There were. Cole mishandled a puck to put a turnover in the slot. It was just a bunch of mistakes that allowed some very costly goals for the Lightning. And if the 2 goals that they had called back were allowed, the Bulls were right there in it. By the stats, it didn't seem like they were getting completely crushed, but in the first and second period, they only managed 4 shots in the first, 7 in the second. It was a tough team to play against, man. These Panthers are really getting hot right now.
To me, it was kind of a continuation of some of the problems we were having last week, where it was just one period kind of sinks you. I didn't think they played all that bad, relative to some of the other games that they had this week. Arguably, maybe one of their stronger games. I know the bar is not very high for it, but it was just the first period they were not ready. They just looked gassed from the moment the puck dropped. And it was that first period that really did sink them. They were all out of sync, the Lightning, that is. They were just completely discombobulated. Overpassing was their biggest killer. But I think they kind of collected themselves towards the end of the game. Despite what we have seen over the last 4 games, the team does finish strong. It's never the third period that really does kill them. So I'd say that it was again, all speaking very relatively, not the worst game this week. There's very, very little I can say to redeem this game at all. I've honestly tried to mute all of it and push it as far back into my brain as possible. I'm just trying to erase this week. So kudos to both Jake and Joe for being able to cover this game better than I.
It was a tough game. I mean, Florida, I thought, played really well for the most part. And Joe, you kind of mentioned that. I mean, the first goal by Eric Stahl, I mean, he had an amazing deflection. That was just a great play.
That's not a savable goal, right? I mean, that's just an amazing deflection. There's nothing you can do about that one.
Now, some of the other defensive laps they had later in the game, you could maybe talk about, but you knew from that first goal that this was going to be a tough game and a tough one because you knew the Panthers were playing hard. And listen, all these teams that we're going to talk about this week were playing for their playoff lives. And that's, I think, a theme of this week is the Lightning have not been able to match these other teams compete. These teams know they have to win these games. This is the dog days, if you will, for them right now, because if they don't win these games, they're not going to the postseason. I think the Lightning got comfortable this whole entire week and we're waiting for the playoffs to start. I think that was a big part of it as well. But at the end of the day, it was a big win for Florida. The Lightning still stuck in a little bit of a rut, but you said, okay, no big deal. You got the trade deadline coming up. Maybe the Lightning will make some moves and maybe some things will change. But the Lightning did make a move, and a move that I think surprised a lot of people. And I want to talk about this before we get into their games because he played in some of these games. The Lightning would go on to trade Vladislav Nemestikov in exchange for Michael Eyssimont. Guys, this deal surprised me. I don't know about you, but I had a feeling there was going to be some other trades moving, some other pieces going around. I didn't see the Lightning trading for another forward, but Eyssimont, another guy kind of like Tanner Jeannot, where he's just a bottom six gritty guy, doesn't score as much as Jeannot can that we've seen him do in years past. But again, JBB clearly, as he said before, he's trying to make that bottom six tougher to play against. That's what he did with this trade.
And this is a guy that was playing on a team that has not done well this season, but he still was a +5, and that to me that kind of says something when we could be positive on one of the lower lines and bring just a little bit more grit. Nemesnikov had every chance in the world to really showcase his talents and be an outstanding player for the Lightning. He just never really amounted to the potential that we saw in the preseason, and he's kind of soft to play against. So I understand this move, and I know we would have liked to have seen others that didn't come to fruition, but this still just makes the bottom six that much tougher to play against at the expense of Nemesnikov.
And I actually really like this move. It was very much so out of left field. I don't think anybody had this one on their radar at all. I think a lot of
classic JBB fashion.
Right? I said that to a buddy of mine. I'm like, he's just going to get somebody who I have no idea exists, and he's going to be a superstar. Waiting on that back half, but I didn't know Eyssimont existed. But he pulled that one off. Regardless, I actually really do like this move, despite me wanting a defenseman possibly. I think that's what a lot of Bolts Nation was really looking for was, extra depth on defense. Once we got Cal Foote sent out the door, maybe a more established NHL-ready defenseman. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and it seems to be biting them right now. We'll touch on that later. But the Eyssimont move, I really do like that. I think he's a more valuable player than Nemesnikov. He could probably provide a little bit more value, a little bit more energy to the lineup, kind of like, not like Tanner Jeannot, but, just somebody to energize the fourth line, let's say. And he's got some really, really terrific underlying numbers, some advanced stats. He's got a crazy expected goals for. I'm not even going to begin to try to decipher and explain what these stats are. I just know that the graphs are in the green. He's a really good, useful player that can still be really useful on bad teams like San Jose. Just the fact that he's a positive, he was +5 on San Jose. that speaks volumes. I don't put a lot of stock in a plus minus. That's a pretty basic counting stat, but all the other advanced stats are really weighing in his favor. There were a lot of people I saw online saying like, of course, Tampa got this guy. A lot of Toronto fans were upset that they got him. Apparently, they were in on him. Other teams were in on him. So I'm happy the Lightning and Julian Breesball were able to pull this trade off. So hopefully, I can definitely see it paying dividends in the future. But it does also raise the question, which forward is sitting in X game.
Now, the Lightning did also retain 50% of Nemestikov's contract when trading him, but Isamont would not not be in the lineup for this next game against the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Lightning were using their typical lineup that we had seen before, so no Isamont just quite yet. And unfortunately for the Lightning, things didn't go as well again as this time. They go back and forth. They battle back. It was a fun game to watch if you're not a Lightning fan. And the Lightning unfortunately fall in overtime by a final score of 5-4. The Lightning got off to a great start. They took an early 1-0 lead in the first period, but then in the second, here comes Pittsburgh. They go out and they score a couple of quick goals. They now take a 2-1 lead. The Lightning tie it. Then Pittsburgh takes back the lead. Again, as I said, back and forth until Pittsburgh finally gets it done in overtime, where I should mention again, Steven Stamkos blew a tire and the Pittsburgh Penguins were able to recover the puck and have a great opportunity, and they capitalized. So I'm not sure who sponsors the Lightning for skate blades, but they might want to look into that because Steven Stamkos might need some new skate blade because this is the second time in overtime he's blown a tire. Granted, the first time he was hooked, but I mean, something's going on.
Oh, he's pretty good at doing that. We've seen it so many times before. If you know anything about skate blades and the radius that they use to cut it, some people don't understand that it's not actually a blade. There's actually two blades for a skate, or two edges for a skate. It's kind of shaped like a U, right? And depending on how wide your radius is, it depends on how much you grip. If you go for something like a 1-inch radius, it gives you a lot more speed because you're not digging into the ice. But when you go to turn hard, you're not going to have as much there. And I feel like he must be rocking something like a 1-inch radius because he's got the straight line speed, but man, does he blow tires a lot. And unfortunately, just this one was really costly.
Yeah, it is becoming a lot more apparent. Like Steven Stamkos, he is a great player, but he has had such a rough patch recently. He's been streaky as hell this entire season. The whole season. But I think, he's I'm not singling him out at all, but he's of course, he's got the spotlight on him, so I kind of everybody's got eyeballs on him, but he's been having a really rough patch, and it was very apparent in this game. But throughout the entire Pittsburgh game, I don't think the Lightning deserved to even really get this close. I don't think that they were playing up to Pittsburgh's compete level. Their intensity wasn't quite the same. The defense was awful throughout the entire game. Jason Zucker, I don't know how he just found himself behind enemy lines. What,
twice?
4? Yeah. Twice he scored, but how many more times was he just well past, let's say, Victor Hedman or somebody?
And they ran the same play. You'd think that our D would have picked up on what they're going for and compensated, but like you said, got behind them again and again.
And that was the same case on the overtime play. Wasn't it Jason Zucker that scored in overtime? I mean, for whatever reason, he had the Lightning. He had the Lightning's number, and Victor Hedman especially his number. He's a sneaky player, and man, it was disappointing seeing the Lightning not adapt to it. You that's what they're looking for. They've tried it a couple of times and it's worked a couple of times. They're going to keep going for it. And they just, I don't know, they kept chasing their tail and not doing anything to remedy the situation. They couldn't adapt is the word that I'm going to stick with. There was no adaptation to Pittsburgh style of game. The desperation is another word I want to stick to it. That wasn't there. Of course, the Lightning don't have to be as desperate as Pittsburgh right now, but the compete levels were just on complete opposite ends of the spectrum the entire game. They're lucky to walk away with a point out of that game. I was very disappointed.
Well, there were some good things to take away from the game as well, though. Specifically, special teams. This was one game where they actually played very well on special teams, going 5 for 5 on the penalty kill and 2 for 5 on the power play. But I mean, the mistakes that they're making were just, they're kind of egregious mistakes. And this was a night that the Penguins capitalized on every single mistake that the Lightning were making, and it turned into a game that I don't think that it should have been. The Lightning had their opportunities to play better in this. The 5-on-5 mistakes were really what killed the Bolts. There was one play I wanted to bring up, though, and that was the Petrie goal, his second one, where he scored from a bad angle. I'm not sure if you guys remember it, but we've talked about offsides rules before. You are allowed to enter the zone. Your skates are allowed to enter the zone if you have possession of the puck before the puck crosses the line. All right, so that's been established. But in this particular play, it looked like he didn't have clean possession of the puck. It looks like he kind of hit it to a space on the ice where he was going to stick handle. Traditionally, there's been precedent where we've seen this play go where if you're not fully touching the puck as you come across the line, it's considered offsides. Why this was not offsides, I don't understand at all, because it seems like they've been pretty consistent with this one.
I want to go back and take a look at that because I genuinely didn't catch that. So I would like to go back and take a look at that because you are pretty spot on with all the offside and onside rulings, Joe. Way better than me. So I'll take your word for it. So really, the Lightning should have won in regulation then.
They got screwed by the refs.
I was at this game and I was up in the 300 section, so it was a little harder to see exactly where that puck was. I didn't have the benefit of TV replays to really figure that out. But
whoa! Stop it right there, future broadcast man. You better get used to that angle, Jake.
Yeah, but they got TVs in there and replays to benefit off of well. And listen, I had a lot of Pittsburgh fans in front of me being really loud and excited, so there was that too. But listen, these offside rules, it's very hard to determine exactly how they're going to go. You never really know. So, we always joke that you need a degree to figure out the cap rules and cap space and all that. Sometimes you need one to figure out offsides as well. At the end of the day, though, it was the defense for the Lightning that did not play well and had a lot of big issues. I also called up Darren Radish for this game, if you guys remember. And, he's young. He's still learning his way to make it to the NHL. He's playing well in the AHL right now, but I think it was the Jason Zucker goal actually in the second period where he just blew right by Darren Radish, or he kind of strong-armed him.
I think that was the O'Connor goal.
Was it the O'Connor? Okay, it might have been the O'Connor goal, but either way, he blew right by Radish and just pushed him out of the way and had an easy breakaway chance. And Vasilevsky's unfortunately had some issues with breakaways, had a tough time stopping them.
Yeah,
there was a lot of defensive lapses.
Yeah, and on that play specifically, that's the difference right there between being in the A and playing in the show. Radish got a real rude awakening to what it's like to have somebody come on the out, beat you on the outside and force the weight to the front of the net, and he didn't handle it. And was that the only game that he played the next game as well, didn't he? Because didn't he get sent back? He got sent back down.
He got sent down for the trade deadline because the Lightning. We thought they were going to make a move because they were trying to get all the cap space they could, but then he got called back up, and I believe he did play one more game.
Yeah, he looks like he played in the Sabres game, but he did not play against Carolina, and that's a NHL style move to drive yourself to the front of the net, and obviously he wasn't ready for it.
I think Radish has got a lot of potential, but he's gonna have to learn.
I disagree because he's older. He's 27 years old, and he's carving out a really great career in the AHL, and I think that might be his ceiling. I was disappointed with his play throughout both of the games he got into. He didn't play against Carolina, did he? I don't remember. I don't think so, but I was disappointed with him. But he's having a great year in the AHL. He's actually second in defensive scoring in the AHL. He's tied he's 14th in the AHL in overall scoring, which is pretty good for a defenseman. It's not Erik Karlsson levels, but I just unfortunately I think he may have reached his ceiling, and I don't think there's any more potential.
You're
I
talking
hate
about
saying
Darren
that
Radish
stuff.
or ABB?
Darren Radish, ABB.
That
He's
that
also
sounds an awful like ABB. He's had the same problem, or he's been
I
really good in
guess
the
you're right.
AHL, but he can't translate.
No, I mean,
So
I know we're going off topic here, but I think ABB still has a lot more to give. I just think you have to use him in the right situations, and it might be the same with Radish. But ABB's probably got 4 or 5 years on him. Younger. Joe, what's on your mind?
I think the right situation to use ABB is in a trade.
well, we'll get into more and recap the trade deadline as a whole. I agree with you, Joe, and I really thought the Lightning were going to move him, but they never did. But let me tell you this, guys. I was able to go, as I mentioned, to the Lightning game, and there's no better feeling than walking into Amalie Arena. I mean, are you guys with me here? I love it every time I
Grand
walk in
entrance,
there.
beautiful.
Yeah, it feels like I'm home. I feel that cold air. I see that Oregon, the beautiful ice down there. It's an unbelievable feeling, and I absolutely love it. I don't know if our listeners out there, how many of you guys have been able to go to a game? I don't know if maybe they're nervous because they don't have merchandise to wear to the game. Well, I know where you can pick some up. So be sure to head over to shop.rblr.com. You can check out all of our awesome Lightning merch we got over there, and you can use code BOLTS for 10% off your order. It's not just Lightning merch either. Ray's theme merch, Rowdy's theme merch, Buck's themes merch, you name it, we got it. So be sure, head over to shop.rblr.com and use code BOLTS for 10% off your order. Links will be in the description as always. Get yourself some Lightning merch and get over to Amalie Arena and experience what is an unbelievable environment. I highly recommend it. With that
Jake,
said, though, yes, Matt.
That wasn't quite as shocking as usual, but that was very eloquent. That was very it was a very formal transition.
I thought it was a fun one. So, and listen, we had to sneak in our positive spins, right? From what has been a rough week. But speaking of that, we need to talk about the next game in the Buffalo Sabres. Again, another rematch game for the Tampa Bay Lightning from the previous week. Eyssimont would play in this game in his first game as a Bull. And unfortunately, things again did not go well for the Lightning. A lot of defensive issues. They lose this one 5-3. They go 1 for 5 on the power play. The penalty kill not as good in this game, which is something I haven't said a lot this season at all. But they go 3 for 5. You give up 2 power play goals. But the Sabres able to tie the game up in the first period, and then it was all Buffalo in the second, and the Lightning do get a couple back late in the third period, but it's too little too late, and the Sabres take down the Lightning once again here.
And once again, we get to mention Tage Thompson again. Yeah.
Oh, do you want me to take the lead?
Well, I'm just saying, you saw him last week, and he put 3 up. Just cover the guy. So he gets a goal and an assist, right? He gets 2 points. Just cover the guy. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. This game was rough to say the least because Joe, you're right. I mean, they're like I said earlier, they're chasing their tail. They're making the same exact mistakes that not only have they been making in the 2 games prior this week, but the same mistakes that you were making in the game you played against Buffalo the week before. The same exact mistakes, letting the same guys get open, letting the same guys fly the zone and get behind your D the first time Buffalo touches the puck in their defensive zone. They again, going back to the word adaptation, they did nothing to adapt. And this game, it got close towards the end. There was a little bit of a bit of compete left in the Lightning, but this game just got out of hand so quick. And again, it was this wasn't a 1 period sinking them type of game. It was just bad from the get-go, and we would see that later on down the road with the top line getting benched. I'd say unarguably their worst game of the season. Stamkos and Kucherov looked terrible. I didn't understand why Braden Point got the bench treatment. I thought he was playing all right. I won't say good, but I thought he was at least better than the other two. defense? Is that what it was? Because I didn't.
Yeah, he
I
was
didn't
good
get.
offensively, but he was still a minus. I believe he was a -1 during that game. So he still had some defensive issues. He was definitely
-2.
better than Stamkos and Kucherov. Oh, he's a -2. Okay, -2. He's definitely better than Kucherov and Stamkos, but defense.
I didn't get to watch a lot of this game. I was at work, so it was like every time the game would come back on, somebody needed something. So I was listening to a lot of it on the radio as well. But I am also kind of asking, making that a question. Why did Point get benched? So thank you.
Yeah, there's not much more you can really say, about that. The one a positive takeaway, if you want some silver lining, is the Lightning dominated faceoffs with that 62.7%. That's it's just insane how good they can be. But even with all that puck possession, it obviously didn't translate to very much. And man, they just keep making mistakes, turning over pucks and putting them into to areas that they are trying to clear it from in front of the net, but it's right on someone else's tape that's uncovered to bury it home. I guess Pointer, before he got benched, did have a goal to extend his career best 7-game goal streak. So two things that you can look at the bright side, I suppose.
If we're gonna talk silver linings, and you also brought up face-offs, a silver lining from this game is Tanner Jeannot taking Riley Stillman's face off. I was lucky enough to catch that live. Again, I only got to watch about half the game, but man, he can chuck them. That was brutal. I don't know if you guys had the same reaction as me, but I was jumping, I was screaming. That was one of the best fights I've seen from this team in years.
I instantly thought of Chris Tucker and Friday at the end. Oh man, and who did he fight again? Who was his opponent?
Jeannot?
Who'd Jeannot fight against?
Oh, Riley Stillman.
Riley Stillman.
Okay, he went fencing after that. If you're familiar with that, what that means, it's like when your arms go straight out from your body because you get knocked out. Like he was done. If Jeannot hadn't held him up, he would have went straight head first on the ice.
And he had the death grip on Jeannot's jersey. I don't know if you saw that, but once he was dropped, I mean he still had full rigor mortis grip on Jeannot's jersey.
I think that was actually Jeannot holding him.
Oh,
really? I think it was Jeannot holding him, so because he went out and to make sure he didn't just completely fall hard onto the ice.
That's a classy move.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they tend to be gentlemen after fights.
We've seen that a couple of times in the league before, which is always good to see. And it was a huge fight. I know all the fans got super excited about it, and we were hoping the Lightning were to get excited about it too. Unfortunately, that didn't really happen. Man, I can't believe you haven't mentioned this. There was a shorthanded goal scored in this game, but this time the Lightning were the ones that were scoring it. So not shorthanded goal against us. This time it goes in the Lightning's favor. And I will mention this too. Cooper benched that first line. The Lightning started to play a little bit better. It seemed like they responded to that a little bit. Unfortunately, it was just too little too late for the Lightning, and they weren't able to win that game. And then to the Carolina game, where, again, a lot of people are talking about it. Cooper just benched his first line. He made that statement move. How is this team going to respond? Well, when you look at the scoreboard, they didn't respond as the Lightning dropped this one to the Carolina Hurricanes by a final score 6-0. But I do want to say this. I thought Nikita Kucherov responded to being benched because early in that game, he was flying up and down the ice. He was back checking. He stole the puck multiple times away from Carolina forwards. He drew a penalty one of the times when he was able to steal that puck away early in the first period. So even though the Lightning had another disastrous game, I thought Nikita Kucherov really responded to that. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that.
Yeah, he did in the first. It was very notable, especially the hustle that he had on the back check. And you even saw Stamkos try to play really hard as well. Skate hard on the back check. He just wasn't as good at it, and ended up being not quite in the right spot in order to help out defensively. But really, this game was against Carolina, who's first in their division, playing extremely well, and they stifled the Lightning's rush. They forechecked the hell out of the D, so they couldn't move the puck confidently. Sniped Vasi. Vasi kind of had another off night. He allowed 2 to get put on him right over his blocker, the exact same spot, almost the exact same shot, and then he passed it. Usually he's good when he's got the puck behind the net. He makes a very crisp and confident play, but he put it right to one of their guys on Carolina, and then they put a tic-tac-toe play together as everyone was scrambling to get back. They're a good team, man. They're a really good team.
Do you guys take this as Carolina's a good team, or the Lightning just played that bad? I mean, I kind of think it's a little bit of both, because there were so many issues for the Lightning. I mean, there were some. We haven't even mentioned yet, the Lightning had 4 shots on goal going into the second period and then had 0. It is the first time this season an NHL team has been held to 0 shots on goal. I mean, that's hard to do. The Lightning did have a breakaway chance shorthanded with Brandon Hagel. Unfortunately, hit the post, and of course that doesn't count as a shot on goal, but 0 shots on goal for the Lightning in that second period. I mean, I don't. Carolina played great. Credit where credit is due. But to me, a lot of this was the Lightning's effort. It was nowhere close. I mean, they looked flat-footed. They looked sloppy. They weren't making passes. They had no offensive zone time. I think this was worse than the Pittsburgh game.
By far, this was the worst game, and I didn't even get to watch this. I probably watched about 5 minutes total of this game. The rest I listened to on the radio broadcast, and you could tell Dave Mishkin and Brian Engblom was doing the game with him as well. They were frustrated. I've hardly ever heard either of them like that. And, of course, in the moment, or if something happens, they'll be a little bit sour and then just go on. But there was an attitude for the rest of the game. Again, I didn't get to watch most of this game, but from what I was hearing, it was dismal. I mean, Freddie Anderson, they literally could not have iced a goalie in the second period, and the score would have remained the same. I mean, just from all accounts, from what I was hearing, Carolina played a really good game. They dominated, unless you're Eric Erlandson. But it was utter domination for sure. Jake, to answer your question, was it Carolina playing really good, or was it the Bolts playing really bad? I have to make an inference. I'd say probably a little bit of both. Again, Carolina is a great team, but I gotta say this is probably, I'm leaning more towards the edge of the Bolts playing bad. I mean, there was just no redeeming qualities from this game whatsoever, only being able to muster up 14 shots throughout the entire game, which, by the way, is the lowest shots taken in a game this entire year. Also add that to the record book as well for this season. I just don't know where things went so wrong. And of course, I'm not ready to hit the panic button. I never will. This is about the same time of the year as I always start to doubt the Lightning, and they prove me wrong. They're great at that, but it's tinfoil hat time. Are the Bolts shutting out John Cooper? And I'm saying this very sarcastically. I've been seeing a lot of that from fans and news pages. Is there a disconnect?
No. Look, the Lightning right now are in a complete funk. There's no doubt about it. And no, it's not time to panic. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be disappointed, and certainly not saying that we should be happy. This is a major skid for the Bolts, the worst since 2014. However, the timing isn't terrible if they can start to right the ship. There are games with dominant special teams, and Carolina's a top flight team, one of the best in the league. With the Bolts having some identity and confidence issues, Carolina exploited them in every way possible. This could be the wake-up call the Lightning need to get squared away. This actually is a great opportunity to get hot right at the perfect time. They have a game against 2 weak opponents to start to reinforce some good habits and gain some confidence. This team has a certain culture and expectation for themselves. This hasn't escaped them. The core of the group has been to 3 consecutive Stanley Cups. Now is the time, however, that they need to apply that mindset, start tightening up, right the ship, and get hot just in time for playoffs.
There's no disconnect from John Cooper. That shouldn't even be a question crossing anybody's mind because, I mean, look, we just talked about, he benched the first line and they didn't respond to it. I know the game didn't go well and none of these games went right, but there's absolutely no reason to believe that. John Cooper has done so many things for this team. They've been to 3 straight finals. They won 2 of them. I mean, they're in a really, really bad funk. I described it as, I kind of feel like they have the yips almost. These guys know what to do. These guys know how to play hockey. They're just having a little bit of trouble right now, and they need to break out of that funk. Joe, I want to play devil's advocate here just a little bit for maybe some of our viewers that are thinking this. We have said a couple of times this week that maybe this was the wake-up call for the Lightning. Then they lost to the Carolina. Or maybe this was the wake-up call for the Lightning. At what point do we start saying, okay, well, they've had too many wake-up calls, and they're still – when are the alarm bells going off a little bit here?
This is it. This is it. Look, you just benched your top line for a period, and then you played with without much confidence. They can't get things going right, and you play a top-level opponent like Carolina. It just is a recipe for disaster unless somehow they could pull it out. Carolina is walking with swagger right now. They are a very confident group, and sometimes the difference between a good team and a great team isn't the personnel with what they actually have for skill. It's just what's between the ears. Right now, the Lightning really badly need to play a team like Philly and start reinforcing some of those good habits again. Start making some passes that work out because they were playing as like they're gripping their sticks too tight. Trying to make a precise play, but it didn't work out, so they don't get a shot on net. It gets turned over, trying to force things rather than allowing their game to flow and come naturally. And when you play like that, you're slower. You're not as you're not as precise with what you're doing. And if they can start to get some of that game back against, again, Philly and Chicago, I think are the prime opportunity. If they don't do it against those teams, then yeah, they're going to be in for a first round exit.
So let me add a layer to your question, Jake. Let's say that they missed the wake up call. They didn't hear the alarm going, and they just fall the entire rest of the season. Let's say they still make playoffs, but they just barely squeak in. Let's say they fall into a wild card spot and get knocked out first round. Of course, we're all going to be disappointed. The standard is still
into existence.
This is okay. Listen, my positive talks have not gone very well for me lately, so this is the best I can do. Just trying to reverse it here, but of course, we would all be disappointed. But could you blame them? Of course, I'm going to be sad and upset, but I will not, deflect that onto the players or coaching or staff, anything like that. Because they have played so much hockey in the last 3 years. Let's skip the 2019 year. They made an Eastern Conference Finals push to Game 7 the year before that. They have just played more hockey than anybody else. I again, personally, I wouldn't be the happiest, but I also can't blame them. I genuinely can't blame them. If this would happen, this is not going to happen. But
I don't think that they've got that sort of mindset. When you have a championship mindset, it's something that doesn't go away. A winner is a winner is a winner. And if you look at some of the pedigrees that you have from the coaching staff on down through the lineup, there's people that have won at every level. And when you have those people surrounding you, it's a whole culture with them. And I don't think that anybody is considering golfing plans sometime in early May or in April. I think they're all wanting to make sure that they get deep in the playoffs. And yeah, maybe a rest, would be nice for their bodies, but every single one of those guys is willing to throw themselves face first in front of a puck if it would make the difference in them winning a cup or not.
You've heard them talk multiple times this year about how they are still looking to get back to the finals and win another cup. There's still multiple guys on this team that have not done that. Brandon Hagel, Belmar, Perry won a cup before, but he is sick of losing. He would love to get back there and get it and get one himself again. So there's no question come playoff time, these guys are going to have that mindset, as you talked about, Joe, that championship mindset. They're not looking for a first round exit. They are looking to go as far as they can, and anything less in a Stanley Cup is going to be a disappointment. And that's the way it is when you are a top contender.
And look, Matt, you brought up the 2019 season. Looking at 2019, who ended up waking up around this time of year to win the Cup? A team that was, what were they dead last in the league when
January 1st, they were 31st in the league. So yes, dead last.
Yeah, that's incredible with what the Blues did when they righted the ship and sailed straight to a victory, unheard of.
Who was on that team, Joe?
Patty three-peat Pat.
So if anybody knows what's going on or how to fix something like this, it's Pat Maroon. He's got the experience.
These guys have done it again. Have done it before, where they get kind of cold right around this time of year. Just God, I gotta see them. I gotta see them turn it around, man. I don't know if I can take many more of these. Was it 5-0 or 6-0 losses?
Yeah, it's getting brutal. I will mention this last thing before we move on to the 3 stars here. This was put out on Twitter. Dave Randolph quote tweeted it. If you want to go check it out, I thought it was a really great point. Late February / early March back in 2015, the Blackhawks are losing. Everybody's freaking out. They had some terrible losses. And guess what? They went on to win the Stanley Cup. They unfortunately beat the Tampa Bay Lightning in those finals, but there have been teams that have gone through these exact scenarios before. All that matters is how you're playing once you get to the playoffs. That is the key. And of course, we want the Lightning to start getting something going, get back under their feet here and get hot, but the playoffs is what matters the most. Now, guys, 3 stars. This was hard to pick this week because really there was not – we took some silver linings from these games, but I don't really know if anybody deserved a 3 star. So we don't have any 3 stars when it comes to players, but I thought it would be fun. Just instead of doing nothing, we'll mention a couple of people in the organization that I think deserve some kudos. Let's put it that way. And the first one I got to mention is Tom Mulligan. We got to give a shout out to our great head athletic trainer, Tom Mulligan, as he had to be out there multiple times during that Carolina game when Victor Hedman took a scary spill. He came back for that one shift, but then left the game. Good news on that front, by the way. The Lightning do not expect him to miss an extended period of time, so he does seem to be okay. He might miss a couple of games, but no long-term injuries, which is good news for the Lightning. But that wasn't all Mulligan was doing out there. He was out there for Sergachev when he blocked a shot off his ankle and was down. Kucherov took a puck to the face. So shout out to Tom Mulligan, who had a very busy week, especially in that Carolina game.
Yeah, I'd say there's another one that Sergei got a Stamkos stick to the face as well.
That's right.
Had to do some patch up. So if there's someone that was performing beautifully on the Lightning, Tommy Mulligan.
And you know what? Credit to him too, because he's had I am knocking as hard as I can on this wood desk. He's had a boring year. Thankfully, there hasn't been much injury trouble. I'm really not trying to jinx it right now. But
Somebody flip it.
But no, I mean he doesn't get enough credit. I can't say enough about the guy. He's been with the team for so long. Not happy for him to have such a busy week, a meaningful week, if you will. But thank God we got him. He really truly is the backbone of the team, if you will. The team only goes as far as he'll take them.
I did an interview with him way back on. I was an awesome interview talking with him. He had some really cool things to say about, how his position works and what goes on in being an athletic trainer. And you're right, Matt, he's been with the team forever. He's done so many amazing things. So shout out to Tom Mulligan, who was big for us this week and has been big for us all these years. Now, another person I want to give a shout out to, and Matt and Joe, I know you guys are going to agree with this one. You're going to love this one. It's Tanner Jeannot's fight, specifically the fight. We mentioned a little bit in that game, but that was just an unbelievable. It was a great way for Jeannot to get and fit in with the team and really, find his role here in Tampa Bay. And it was that light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, and was such a rough week for the Lightning. But Tanner Jeannot steps up in a big way. I thought he's been really good this week as a whole too, since he's come over to the Bolts. Only played a couple of games, but I really like what I've seen from Jeannot.
So I asked a friend of mine, he lives in Nashville. He's a huge Predators fan. He was distraught losing Jeannot. and he's also a Lightning fan. He grew up in Nashville, lived in Tampa, moved back to Nashville, so he's a fan of both. And I asked him, he watched some of these games, and I asked him, like, is he just showing out for the Lightning, or is this just how he plays? He said, no, that's just how he plays. And I hadn't even seen the best from him. There's a lot more he can give to this team, which that makes me giddy. It makes me excited. But man, TKO Jeannot, he really has made his mark on the team so far, and I am sticking with that nickname.
I love that. And how silly must Stillman feel for engaging him like he did on the ice? I mean, he went after Jeannot, like really went after him to initiate that fight, and then got dummied like he did. Oh.
It was one of those moments where Jeannot's about to throw the uppercut, and then it freezes, and you're probably wondering how I got here. Or one of those, at this moment, Stillman knew, he screwed up. It's one of those moments.
For sure. And what a way to gain support from the fan base, a way to introduce yourself to the Tampa Bay Lightning, was it a Thunder, or, to really come out with a bang like that and get, everyone on your side and cheering for. Even some people I was around, like, they're just waiting for the jerseys to come out. They're going to get them right away.
I don't know if I sent this in the Discord chat, but I saw a tweet that said Jeannot hit him with a first, a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth. That one made me laugh so hard.
That's
great.
Good. Well, right now, JBB's trade is looking mighty fine, if I do say so myself. It was a lot, but he has really made an impact for the Lightning. Now, as for our quote third star, if you will, since we really didn't have a 3 stars of the week, I'm giving this a shout out to Thunderbug, because he doesn't give enough appreciation either. Thunderbug, our guy's always at the games, always supporting the team no matter what. So quick little shout out to Thunderbug as well. I do want to leave this to our listeners here as well. Let us know at RBLR Lightning, are there 3 players that stood out to you this week? What are your 3 stars? We'd love to hear your thoughts as always. I know we didn't give out 3 stars this week, but we'd love to hear from you guys. If there's somebody that you think should have been on the list, let us know what your 3 stars are as well. And again, you can do that at RBLR Lightning. Now, before we the upcoming games for this week, one last thing I want to go over here, and I kind of want to talk about the trade deadline. Now, I know we kind of mentioned a couple of the trades the Lightning made, and of course, as we alluded to, the Lightning did not make any moves on trade deadline day. They had $1.3 million in cap space, but no moves were made. Now, after what you guys saw this week and a lot of the defensive issues, and unfortunately now they didn't know about this, but the injuries that we've had to deal with Eric Cernak, Victor Hedman, Sergachev. Cernak, by the way, is currently day-to-day, expected to be back very, very soon. So it's not long-term for him either. But do you think the Lightning made a mistake in not going after another D-man at the deadline?
All right. So I think that they probably tried and weren't able to put a deal together that made sense. But I also don't think it would have made one bit of difference in what happened this week. Just adding one guy isn't going to have changed the way the rest of the team played. And a lot of that was hanging out Vasi to dry. Doesn't matter who you have on D. If you're hanging back playing strong D and it's a 3-on-1, well, there's only so much you can do, right? So it's a whole team thing, and it wouldn't have changed this week. Should they have? Potentially if it made a lot of sense. But I also really do believe in the D that we've got when they're playing the way they should be playing defensively, like they were playing in January as a team. I mean, they're really, really tough to play against, and that's what they got to get back to. I don't know if one D man would have changed that.
Yeah, I am gonna just kind of reiterate what you said, Joe. And no, I don't think that they needed to have got a defenseman. I think we all know that all the pieces are there, the tools are there. They just need to put the vehicle together and drive it, which right now it is on blocks. But it'll just take a little bit of fine tuning. It'll take a little bit of time. But of course, hindsight being 2020, yeah, it would have been nice with, we've got 3 of our best defensemen injured right now. It'd have been nice to have a little bit of backup there. Luckily, we do have a little bit of defensive depth, Hayden Fleury, Darren Radish, if you will. Philippe Myers, if you will. I don't want to do that, but no. Apparently, Julian Breesball was trying to make moves with other GMs. He was looking for a defenseman. I heard the name Joel Edmondson being thrown out, but apparently the Lightning just didn't have the assets or the capital to make it work. So,
What
I
would you have
think
done, Jake?
I would have traded for John Klingberg. That's what I would. The
no.
Lightning were. The Lightning. Now, hang on, Matt. Hear me out. The Lightning were connected to his name, and I actually really would have liked that move. Listen. I trust JBB. I trust this team. I think they're going to make a huge run come playoff time. They're going to get hot very soon. But from what I've seen, what I've been seeing the last couple of weeks, I think the Lightning should have made a move for a defenseman. They have a gap there in that last spot. I mean, Bogosian, and then you got Fleury sometimes makes it in, sometimes Radish. It's not solid. And I think the Lightning could have made a move to give them the best possible chance to make another run at a Stanley Cup. They can still do it, but I think they should have moved for defenseman. They had the cap space. I know they didn't have a lot of assets, but I think they could have pulled it off. I don't know what it was like in that room, but I personally, if it was possible, and I think it would have been, I would have gone after Klingberg from the Ducks. And I know a lot of people didn't like him because his defense is so bad and his plus minus is terrible. But guess what? The Lightning have brought over defensemen before who have had terrible plus minuses. I believe it was Kevin Shattenkirk, who, was not good defensively at all with the New York Rangers, even a little bit before that. He comes over to the Lightning, plus 22. Goes to the Ducks, everything falls apart for him again defensively. Now, granted, the Ducks as a whole are dumpster fire when it comes to defense. But point being, just because a player is not doing good on one team doesn't mean that's going to happen on the other team either. Chemistry and environment is a huge thing. And I was excited when their name was connected to them. I don't know what happened, if the price was just too much or they couldn't make it work cap wise, but I would have really loved that personally.
They definitely had the assets to acquire him, but there's just, to me, there's no spot in the lineup for him. And I guess, this is kind of a moot point now. There's nothing, we can do, but he is a one-trick pony. He's a power play quarterback, but we've already got two guys better than him at quarterbacking the power play in Sergachev and Hedman. I just don't see a spot for him. And yeah, Shattenkirk, he was a great addition for the Lightning in 2020, but we're 3 years past that now. This is when Sergachev, he was still, let's say he was 21 years old. He didn't have, extreme defensive responsibilities like he does have now. I think it was a good stopgap then. It paid dividends. I just wouldn't see it working out the same way this year. I did see when the Lightning's name were linked to John Klingberg, I saw a couple of Leafs fans saying, please get John Klingberg. As a Leafs fan, please get John Klingberg.
But
Then
see,
a couple
that would
days
have made
after,
the trade even sweeter when we did it and Leafs fans were celebrating that, and then he scores the Game 7 winning goal. That would have been amazing.
I think the biggest move Julian Breesball did the entire trade deadline week was not acquiring John Klingberg.
And since you brought up the Leafs, I want to talk about them just for like 2 seconds here. They made so many moves. This entire this entire lead up to the trade deadline is probably the most active and insane one that I can ever remember happening in the NHL as a whole. But Toronto basically replaced about a third of their players with all the trades that they made.
Did they do too much?
Oh, and how do you get that many guys to start clicking at a playoff level? I personally don't think that's a good look. What does that say to some of the other players that are still there, that they overhauled a third of the team when they're still in their second place in their division? I don't get it.
Well, and look at JBB, what he's done for the last 3-4 years now. He's always traded for like 2, maybe 3 guys. He did that again this year. Underrated guys that nobody expects him to trade for. Yeah, people may think he overpays, but they end up making huge impacts. And there's a lot of these guys staying on the team for multiple years. It's not just rentals. And I don't know if you guys saw, Ryan O'Reilly is on long-term injured reserve. I don't know how long he's going to be out for. I would expect him to come back at some point in the playoffs, but one of their huge moves is on the injured list, and that's not good for them whatsoever.
He probably will be out very, very late into the season and possibly even into the playoffs.
Broken
Because
finger, by the way,
LTIR,
that's the injury.
Yeah. And LTIR, it's either a certain amount of games that you've missed or a certain amount of days that have passed, and it's somewhere between 35 and 45 days. And I think it's like, 15 games or something like that to be on LTIR. So we've only got a handful of games left in the season. He might be on pace to join the team, for game one in the playoffs. It's, all but confirmed we're playing Toronto in the playoffs. But I guess don't take this out of context, but that's good for the Bolts. Of course, you don't celebrate injuries or anything like that. But that's
he's gonna be coming on to a brand new. He's gonna be coming on to a brand new team, having not really played with them very much, and
no time to build
he
chemistry.
is. Yeah, I mean, he is a role player. He does serve a specific purpose, and that the type of play that he does isn't like it's Kucherov, right? Where you get someone that's passing at these high elite levels. It's not the game that he has, so maybe he'll be all right. But man, I I think Toronto just sold their soul to to build something I don't think is going to work.
It might be a Panthers-esque move, like last year, where they just went all in. And what did it do for them? Yeah, they made it past the first round, but subsequently got swept by yours truly. They might have done too much and tinkered a little bit too much. It's never the person that makes the biggest splash at the trade deadline. It's never that team that wins the cup. So.
Well, let's be honest. For the Leafs, all they're trying to do is get out of the first round. That's their ultimate goal right now, one step at a time. Listen, the Lightning have had a really rough week. They've had a rough couple of weeks, I would say, but they've got a lot of home games coming up this week, and this is their chance to get everything right. I know we said it last week. This was the get right week, but this might really be the week for the Lightning to get their feet back under them. They take on the Philadelphia Flyers at 7 p.m., again at Amalie Arena. Then they're taking on the Vegas Golden Knights, again at home at 7 p.m. Then it's the Chicago Blackhawks at 7 p.m. at Amalie Arena. And then it's Winnipeg back at home again. And again, at 7 p.m. at Amalie Arena. Now, they got a couple of decent teams in there. Winnipeg is the second wild card spot right now in the West. Vegas is first in the West. They've been playing really, really well. But Philly and Chicago, two teams that are on the bottom tier, if you will, of the league. But as we've said so many times before, guys, any team can beat anybody. We've seen these Lightning and Flyers games constantly go crazy. So the question I want to pose for you guys for this week is, can the Lightning get out of their funk? Are they going to do it? Should Lightning fans believe that this is the week they get their feet back under them?
Well, my glass half full attitude has not been working, so no, they're losing all four of these games. It's going to be terrible. Shut out each of these games. I'm not even going to try the positivity aspect of it because it has not been working for me. So,
I think that I really don't like that we're playing Vegas as the second game in this four-game lineup that we have. I wish it was a little bit later in the week. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm really nervous to see what's going to happen in this Philadelphia game. That's the one where they have the chance to really blow out an opponent. Or, I mean, you don't even have to blow them out. Just do everything right. Start playing defensively. Don't let them... Yeah, exactly. A full 60-minute game. And then they're playing the number one team in the West with the Knights. If they can put some good things into play against Philly... I don't even think they have to win against the Knights if they just play the right way, lose doing the right things, and that will be okay. Just continue building on the process and carry that into Chicago. Well, I mean, when Chicago comes here, but into the Chicago game. But man, I'm nervous about this Philly game, man. They gotta really get their act together, and this is the best opportunity they're basically gonna have for the rest of the season to do it.
These games tend to be really weird too against Philly. I mean, how many times have we seen 7-6 shootout games against the Flyers? So who knows what's going to happen?
A 3-1 game would be perfect. If it's 7-6, they did not do what they're supposed to do.
Right, because they got to defensively. That's been the number one issue for the Lightning, and they've got to fix that. You want to see the defense improve. I think they can absolutely do it. We've talked about a couple of times on this episode that teams have been in this position before. The Lightning have been in this position before. They got their gut punch, if you will, this week. Now is the chance for them to wake up It doesn't matter who you're playing. You got to play like your playoff life depends on it. Get in that mindset. Get ready to go for the playoffs like the Lightning always do, and then take it from there and shock everybody. Don't let the noise get into your head right now. And I know these guys know that they are professionals. They've been to the finals 3 times in a row. There is no reason to expect that the Lightning will not be ready come playoff time. And no, I don't think that the Lightning are going to be out of a playoff spot by the time that comes around. Yes, it could technically happen, but a lot would need to happen for that to go down, and I don't think that's going to happen at all.
And Jake, we've got a back-to-back this weekend, but my prayers have been answered. They're both at home. Let's go.
Matt's happy. You got a home back-to-back. By the way, that Buffalo game that was thrown in, that was the canceled game that we had, and the league put us in that. But I cannot believe they scheduled that game on a back-to-back. But that's neither here nor there. It's a big week for the Lightning. It's a big week for hockey. It'll be really exciting. Make sure you guys like and subscribe right here on the channel so you don't miss out on the episode next week when we come back to talk about all this good stuff and hopefully some Lightning wins. Follow us at RBLR Lightning on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the social medias. I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Go Bolts!
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.